All right, let's get it going. Matt, welcome. Live listener, live goat. We're back. Welcome to another edition of the Grand Central Fantasy Podcast. The Toxic Boys are back. Back outside boys are back. It's your boy Sean here, and we are back with another edition of the Grand Central Fantasy Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, the legendary Michael J. Rock. Mikey, talk to the people. Let them know. You know what, Mike? How'd you do in your fantasy leagues last week? Did you win? What was the
I won
record?
a lot of them. I posted on our main account because I was almost undefeated. I needed DK to get like 21 points last night. He didn't quite get it. He still did pretty good, but I did pretty good this past week. What about you?
Shout out to the Patreon League where I'm 0-4, and I did the exact same thing that I did last year in that league that fucked me, where I drafted Jalen Hurts early and drafted Alexander Madison as my running back too. This year, I decided to switch it up a little bit and draft Lamar Jackson early and draft Zamir White as my running back too. So things are going really good. Other leagues, I'm feeling pretty good. Only one league I'm undefeated in, so I'll take it. But Mike, besides the Patreon embarrassment, I have to say the Patreon community as a whole is doing great. And if you are somebody that is 1-3, 0-4 after the first quarter of the season, I'm here to tell you you do not have to fear it all. Grand Central Fantasy is here for you. Patreon.com/Grand Central Fantasy for only $10 a month. For the initial tier, $15 a month for unlimited access to us. We are here for you for all your fantasy questions. You can cancel anytime. Mike, maybe you're somebody that is, trying to cut back on eating out, maybe trying to cut back on spending money on Starbucks or whatever you spend your money on. You got a little extra cash laying around. Why not spend $15 on yourself for unlimited fantasy assistance throughout the seasons? Just $10 a month at a minimum. You can cancel anytime. Shout out our CTO, Dave Ness Johnson, hopping in the chat. Listen, Dave, you can hop in and give a spiel or just talk or co-host whenever you want, but not right now because I'm selling to the people. If you find yourself, hey, I got a couple extra bucks and I'm trying to recoup this money that I put into my fantasy league, hit your boys up. We're here for you 24/7. And I do mean 24/7. I wake up to take a piss at 3 in the morning, and I got the guys on the West Coast messaging me if they should drop like their third string tight end and they need an answer right then and there. You know, we got you. It's time to sign the fuck up. Our boy Dave is asked to speak. So let's see. Let's get him on here. Dave, talk to the people. Talk to me.
Yo, yo, yo.
GCF?
You tell me. The one and only, bro.
This is the spot. My fault. My bad. I wanted to jump in real quick. Yo, did you talk about Patreon already? You did, didn't you?
We did. And listen, I have a question for you as our chief technical officer. Who's the GOAT? You had to pick one for the rest of your life. Tom Brady or Tom Brady? Listen to me. Tom Brady or Charlie D'Amelio? You gotta pick one.
So that is a crazy comparison. I mean, Tom Brady, 1,000%, man. He's the fucking god. I don't know what to tell you, bro. That's just what it is. No, yeah. I actually wanted to double check if you, because here's the thing. I want to talk about the Patreon. The Patreon is literally the move. I don't know. I'm sure you said that already.
I did.
My boy Mikey Rock, he hooked me up. I'm sharing this for the group. He hooked me up with my fantasy team. I need to make sure everybody understands this. My team right now is 4-0. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's
for the people in the back. Say that one more time.
I don't know if that's good or not. I'm 4-0 in this league. Apparently, I'm number one for PF. I don't know what PF means. What is that? I'm number one in that.
Okay.
I mean, it's just I'm feeling really good. I don't have to worry, and that's the blessing about Patreon. It's unlimited access. You know, again, Mikey Rock came through. He looked at my lineup. He told me who was good, who was ass. He had me pick up Josh Allen. He had me pick up Alvin Kamara. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm feeling okay. So I don't know.
That's a big money league too. You're in.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, this is the 250 league, bro. I'm not. This is bills, bro. This is somebody's bill. I got on the line right now.
You're not fucking around, is what you're saying.
So I'm just saying, man, sign up for the Patreon. Like, make sure people know about that, because this is about, understanding who to talk to, professionals in the business. How do I know who's going to be put in my lineup and who's absolute ass? Take respect off their name.
Listen, I couldn't have said it better myself, Dave, but I gotta say before I let you go, before I kick you out of here, but I appreciate that promo you cut for us right now. The Dave I know would never pick Tom Brady over Charlie D'Amelio, so you changed, bro.
Wow. Don't call me
You
out in
dead
front of
ass
all
have
these
changed,
people,
bro.
bro.
You changed, bro. Father of three. All right, I've removed Dave from speakers. No disrespect, bro. But the people are here and they wanna listen to us. We got Dub in the building. We got Sterling, Matt.
What up, boys?
Matt was here before I even put on the fucking before I hit record.
He's the first one here every week. He beats us every time, man. He's got to keep that streak going.
He's a legend. Dave's requesting again. We might have created a monster right now, Dave. It's not letting me put you back. Oh, I added you as a speaker. You can speak whenever you want, Dave. Just so you know. All right, Mike. You want to get us going on respect? We got a new format. I missed last week, but I'm back. We got a little bit of a new format. I'm feeling good. Switching it up. There's a lot of allegations, a lot of dirt being thrown on my name. Shout out Nick Flair for filling in for me. I appreciate him. Mike, take it away, bro. If you don't have anything to add, I'm very curious who you're putting respect on, because you had a lot of options. You had a lot of options this week.
There were a lot of options. I had a tough time with it. Real quick, we had a lot of people hit us up, Patreons, not Patreons, and they listened to the pod and they said they like the new format. They like what we did. So we're going to keep trying that out. We're going to keep going with that. Always let us know what you guys like about the pod, what you don't like, talk shit, praise us, whatever. We appreciate the feedback always. But yeah, there was a lot of people to go with, and let me just fucking get it going right now. It's time to put respect on these motherfuckers' names. And we're going to start off with Jordan Addison. Just last week, I stroked Sammy's D and what he's done for the offense. I said, just wait until Addison and Hawkinson are back in this offense. Things could get even scarier. Addison fucking returning from injury, drunken, reckless driving, return from straight out of Sean's playbook. He brought in 3 of 4 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown while running in a score. Sean, I have to tell you, like all other Vikings players, I thought this was going to be a tough year for them. Aaron Jones should easily be on this list too. Addison had an ADP of 107 after we saw him outplay all the other rookie wide receivers last year. His drinks are on my fucking tab. Put some respect on his name. Next, we're going Nico Collins. There were so many questions about the Texans wide receivers this offseason, and we're going to get to the Texans wide receivers in a little bit. But questions were answered on Nico Collins. He's the number 1 wide receiver on the Texans. He's literally like, I think, the number 2 wide receiver overall in fantasy football. He's been unbelievable. Second time in 3 weeks, he's finished as a top 5 wide receiver with 1 start outside the top 13. Took advantage of a weak secondary, scoring 150 yards. Hey, had 12 catches on 15 targets. Jesus Christ, and a touchdown. 3 100-yard games. 3 10-plus target games. Each game with at least 26-yard catches. That's fucking crazy, bro. He's making big plays. He's making highlight plays. He's doing it all, and you got him in the 3rd round. Put some fucking respect on his name. Next, I was going to go James Conner, but I switched it up. Put some respect on James Conner's name. But I switched it up after Monday Night Football and after what I saw with Kenneth Walker. My boy is back in fucking action, and he's gotten the ultimate disrespect these past 2 years. These past 2 weeks, inactive with an oblique strain. He comes back Monday Night Football, hasn't missed a fucking beat. 16 touches, 116 yards, and a career-high 3 touchdowns. Sean, he had 5 targets and 4 catches, and that's a part of his game that we haven't really seen yet in football. And we love catches. PPR, we love. Second running back on the week. He's got 2 top 10 finishes now in his 2 games on the season. I'm loving this new Seattle offense. I don't know how you're feeling about it. I was pumping it up. Everyone's fucking eating over there. DK, JSN, everyone's fucking needed. Put some respect on Kenneth's birth name. And last but not least, we're probably past the respect factor with him, but about 4 to 5 years ago, a bunch of fucking Twitter twats were saying the decline was coming for King Henry. Fuck them. Talking about his high usage not being sustainable. In the great words of some of the most influential philosophers from my childhood, Degeneration X, suck it. Fucking suck it for putting disrespect on King Henry's name. The Bills held rush offense in check for the first 3 games, and Henry outrushed all 3 of those teams on the ground just in this one game alone. 24 rushes, 199 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, and he got 1 through the air. Your lead leaguer in rushing yards. Tied lead leaguer in rushing touchdowns. Lead leaguer in 20-plus yard rushes with 6. Put some motherfucking respect on this guy's crown. Put some respect on King Henry's name. Let's go, baby.
Dude, and Henry, just before we get into respect off, Henry last 2 weeks in PPR, 65 combined points. That's fucking insane, dude. I love that list. You got to put respect on all those motherfuckers. Listen, Nico Collins, I still remember doing my wide receiver rankings and being like, damn, I gotta like slide him up a little bit. And I think I put him 12th overall. Dude, this guy's a fucking beast. Every year somebody breaks out and ends up in the top 5 category. I love what we're seeing for Nico. Dave said, shout out Nico. That's his boy. You got good taste, man. He's putting in work. And well, I mean, Mike's got good taste because he's picking your team. But listen, you're the face of the brand, so it's all good. You know what I'm saying? But listen, Mike, I didn't even know Jordan Addison got a DUI. He was already one of my guys because USC, but now he's in the top 2 all time because he blew a .08, which is legal level, so I don't even know what's going on. But he also gave a quote that everybody says when they did something that like they just like feel like they have to say something. He said, I was, quote, in a dark place. Whatever's out there for me, whatever comes with it, I'll own up to everything. I guarantee you my guy has driven drunk several times since that arrest. I hope he keeps driving drunk. I hope he keeps balling out because who gives a shit? GCF, the #1 DUI podcast. Please drive drunk all day, maybe even with your kids in the back seat.
Wow.
So Mike, are we good? Can I move on to respect off? Because I really want to get into the games. And I think that people want to get into the games that are coming up.
Yeah, man, get into the respect off. We need this quick recap of the bullshit that we had to sit through this past week. So hit the people with the respect off.
Starting off with respect motherfucking off. Unfortunately, this hurts me. Garrett Wilson / Mikey Rock adjacent. 7.1 in full PPR fantasy points last week. High-end flex numbers from a guy that Mike put ahead of Justin Jefferson and was actively saying he was going to be better than Justin Jefferson. Was disappointed with me when I drafted JJ over Garrett Wilson in a league. I do think, Mike, in all seriousness, I think people are overreacting to that Jets game. The weather was absolute garbage. If you know anything, I think the turf stuff is overrated in general at MetLife Stadium. People think you walk on there and tear your ACL. But when it's raining, it is a fucking mess, and they're just not doing anything about it. So I think that played into a factor. But this is a guy, like I said, high-end flex numbers for a guy some people drafted in the first round, depending on your league size. That's fucking not it, bro. We have to see a lot more from him, and I do think we see a big bounce back week this week against the Vikings in London. Next up, we have Mahomes, bro. This is for our guy Friday. Took out his best receiver because he's allergic to having playmakers on his team. Make sure he did it himself. Take him out, tore his ACL. I guess it's not official yet. I don't fucking know, man. But on the fantasy side, he hasn't scored more than 23 points all year for a guy you took in the 3rd round. I was off last week and I didn't get a chance to shit on Mahomes, so I just had to fit it in there real quick. Next up, we got Brock Bowers. Dude, this is disappointing. 5 full PPR points against Cleveland when he was supposed to be the main guy. Devontae Adams is out because he's getting ready to go to the Jets. Only 3 targets, too. that was disappointing because everybody and their mother has their dick out for Gardner Minshew 24/7 when he's the backup quarterback. You give him a chance to start, and he sucks, and he can't get the ball to his best guys. Sad. And then finally, we have Stevenson. RIP the steal of the draft for real. Like, I'm not giving up on Stevenson at all by any means, but week 3 he had 0.3 against the Jets. 0 in some leagues. And last week he had 8.2 points. I still love Stevenson, but I do think in that offense we really have to manage our expectations and understand what we're really going to get. And Mike, just a little thing I wanted to throw in there because we're not really talking about the Niners this week. Respect off of CMC and his fucking hamstrings, bro. I don't know if you saw, but Schefter announced that he had tendonitis in both hamstrings. It really is looking like a fucking career-threatening thing. I told Nick Flair today that, it's his luck that the year he drafts CMC, not only is he injured, but he's probably going to retire. So Nick Flair forced CMC into retirement. I hope he's happy about that. What do you got for me? What do you think about that, Mike?
I mean, great list. Garrett Wilson, man, that one hurts. I still have faith, not as him being a top 5 wide receiver, like I said, but I still have faith in him. Like you said, the weather was shitty. I just want to point out maybe Patrick Surtain needs some respect on his name. Against DK Metcalf, George
Fair.
Pickens, Mike Evans, and Garrett Wilson this season. 11 targets, 7 catches allowed, 77 yards allowed, 0 touchdowns. That's fucking GOAT level, dude. I love beating not beating off, but I love
Beating
beating this
dudes.
guy down while in fantasy while we can. Patrick Mahomes, third most interceptions on the year, only behind Anthony Richardson, our boy, and Will Levis. 17th in QBR, 15th in 20+ yard completions. Patrick Mahomes, you literally suck. Like, you were outside the top 12 last year in fantasy. You're well outside the top 12 again in fantasy. Take fucking respect off his name. And yeah, that was a great list, dude. Brock Bowers, the little disappointing, man. No Adams there. To be fair, Gardner Minshew was fucking awful, but Bowers, he's just having trouble finding the open field. So, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing for Bowers.
And Mike, we're going to talk about the Chiefs in a second, but I just want to point out to people, and this is not me being like a Jet fan, like loser who's just making excuses. If you actually watch film, Wilson and Rodgers are not on the same page even a little bit. So they're just not clicking right now. They're just off a half step. And when you think about it, this guy Rodgers he didn't have any training camp, any preseason, didn't play with them last year. They had a really good camp in 2023, and then they haven't been playing. So I honestly think Garrett Wilson's a really good trade candidate, like trade for candidate, a buy candidate right now. But that's a separate discussion for a separate podcast. But Mike, drive the fucking boat, baby. What game are we talking about for week 5? I'm all in for week 5. Let's go.
Well, I think it's only appropriate to talk about the Bucks versus Falcons, considering it's Thursday night football. Big matchup. A lot of players on both of these teams are on fantasy teams. They're stacked. And I think we got to kick it off, dude, with the Falcons. I'm severely disappointed in the Falcons all around. I'm feeling like, you know how there's Super Bowl hangovers? I'm having like my preseason hangover from the Falcons because I was
Your
drinking the
dick
Kool-Aid.
out. Your dick
Yeah.
out hangover? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my dick doesn't really hang out because I'm not blessed in that area. But from Cousins to London to bees on to Pitts, like disappointing, and I don't think it's going to get any easier against the Bucks. Sean, Tampa Bay has allowed one player to pick up more than 100 receiving yards in a game this season. Tampa Bay has also allowed one player to catch a touchdown pass against him this season. That spells horrible fucking news for the Falcons. I mean, and I know they won last week, but the offense really looks pitiful. Kyle Pitts, 0 catches, your boy. Drake London hasn't really gotten it going like I thought he was. In this matchup for me, um, I'm almost at a point where I want to put Mooney ahead of Drake London because that chemistry looks real. He's targeting him almost
Yeah, that's
just as
fair.
much. I still have Drake London over him a little bit. This week I have him as like a low end wide receiver too. But like compared to rankings and consensus rankings, Drake London's almost a low end wide receiver 1 from what I've seen, high end wide receiver 2. So I kind of have him behind that. The only bright spot that I see for the Falcons this week against them is Bijan, as the Bucs have allowed the second most receptions and yards to running backs. It got a little scary, man. Algier was getting a lot of work, almost like Arthur Smith Avenue. I didn't like seeing that this past week, but I think this is going to be a week that Bijan comes back to his full potential against a defense that struggles against pass catchers. So that's how I'm feeling about Falcons players. Anyone that you're feeling good about, shitty about? How are you feeling about the Falcons this week?
So here's my thing with the Falcons moving forward, and it's kind of like a bigger question, Mike. To answer your question, the only person that is a must start to me, and I feel confident about every week, is Bijan Robinson. His talent, his skill set, you drafted him within the first 4 picks if you were lucky enough to do that. You're starting him every week. Everybody else is questionable. And here's my thing, Mike. One of these people has to be a fraud. That's either Kirk Cousins, who averaged, let me get the numbers here. He has 63 points over the first 4 weeks of the season. That's 15.7 points per game. That is nothing special. That is not the type of season we were expecting from him. Really, you were expecting from him going into the year. Either Kirk Cousins is the fraud, or fucking Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, is the fraud. This guy's only 37 years old, Mike. He was one of the guys that just had a fucking cup of coffee with Sean McVay and got a job somehow after that 2019 season where every fucking assistant in LA was getting a job. This guy finally works his way up, gets a job at only 37 years old. What about this offense is dynamic? What about this offense scares you even a little bit? It's a dogfight to get down the field every fucking possession. And Drake London, you took in the second round, early third, if you were lucky enough. He's been giving you flex numbers. You said something, Mike, 2 seconds ago, and you were 100% right. That's the scary part. You almost want to put Darnell Mooney above Drake London, and you're right to do that. You know what I mean? Like the chemistry does really look good there. I think it's a larger question that we might have to see Michael Penix Jr. come in here. We don't have to see it, but I think we should expect it if we keep seeing more weeks like this. But this week against Tampa, I do think I don't want to be that guy, but I think it is a little bit make or break. I think not only for Cousins, but everybody in general from a fantasy perspective. I think we need to see a lot of production out of the passing game because after this you have Carolina, but then you keep going and the schedule gets rough before the bye week, Mike. So I don't love anybody. I'm starting Bijan. I would bench Drake London if I have to, and it took me till this point. 4 weeks, I've kind of seen enough. It's just not there with Cousins yet. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I mean I really agree with you with basically everything. Real quick, the Bucks, Sean, have allowed the 6th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. But when I dived into that and looked a little bit further, they've allowed 4 rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks, which kind of inflates that numbers. You and I both know, good Lord, Kirk Cousins ain't running in no fucking,
He ain't
touchdown.
running,
So
no.
I think that doesn't really speak to the Buccaneers defense and fantasy. But speaking of the Buccaneers, there's 2 guys I want to touch on real quick in this game. One is Chris Godwin, and the Bucs side, the Falcons defense has been tough to its opponents. But they've allowed the 6th most fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. And Chris Godwin has been on fire. He's a full start with confidence, obviously. I mean, the guy's, good Lord, I think he's a top 5 fucking wide receiver so far this year. So that's a guy I want you to be confident in. And I bring up his name, too, for gambling because we're always talking about gambling. I've been doing looking into a lot of Chris Godwin over yardage. I feel like I've been hitting a lot on that. So that's a guy to keep an eye on. And this is a deeper target. This is the guy I wanted to talk about because tight ends have been a fucking shit show all season, and that's Cade Otton. And you know what? He's no one special, and I'm not trying to throw him out there and say he's going to be a top 5 tight end. But what I've seen from him the last 2 weeks is that he has the third most targets out of all tight ends in football. And we know Baker Mayfield is going to throw the ball a hell of a lot in this game, and he just like he always does. I'm very confident in Baker Mayfield flinging the ball around. He slings it around all over the field. So if you're trying to stream because bye weeks are starting, people. If you haven't realized, the Eagles, the Chargers, the Lions, and Titans are not playing this week. They're on byes. You might need you might have Sam Laporta. You might have Dallas Goedert. Kate Otten might be a decent play for you. You want to touch on anybody on the Buccaneer side, Sean?
Otten, just real quick on Otten, he's been a guy that always had a little bit of, flex appeal. He was always going to be the guy, even with Brady. It was like, oh, is he going to look at this? He was a really big sleeper pick in 2022. And then it's just kind of like, all right, he kind of fell off. He's only had 6 touchdowns throughout his career, but I do like that pick. These bye weeks are killer. Mike, before we move on, honestly, at this point with Chris Godwin, I feel like you might as well just get a jersey and sit in your basement and just watch highlights of Godwin, because I feel like you find ways to bring him up. That is legit your boy. Everybody's starting Chris Godwin and everybody's fucking feeling happy about it. I do like your pick for gambling, because the Vegas still isn't respecting him and he deserves it. Only thing you got to worry about him with his injury is his injury history, but he looks great. If you're actually watching the games, he looks great. So enjoy that shit. But listen, man, I think a lot of people are tuning in and want to listen to what we have to say about Bucky versus Rashad, the running backfield in Tampa Bay. They both split carries 10 each. The coach was saying that he wants to get Bucky Irving more involved. For me, just the way things, and I watched a lot of that Tampa Bay game, with the way things are shaking out, it did look pretty even, but Bucky got the goal line carries. If you're an owner of Rashad White and Bucky Irving, Mike, like I am in a lot of leagues, I'm starting Bucky Irving this week and probably moving forward. Am I crazy for doing that?
No, not at all. I mean, if you watch the games, like you said, Bucky Irvin's the more efficient runner. He looks smoother through the tackles. He has more burst. Rashad White just looks boring on the field. I still am, think Rashad White has fantasy value because he is the one getting the higher workload. He is the one getting more of the targets out of the backfield. But it's starting to look like it's going to be the Bucky Irvin show down the line.
All right, we're going to see. What's our next game?
Next, I'm going to touch on the Packers and Rams. Huge reason for this is we saw our boy Jordan Love return from injury. And, there was a lot going on in that game last week. Packers-Vikings, high scoring, a lot of throwing going on. Jordan Love's numbers look crazy, and they were very good if you had him in fantasy. I feel like a lot of it was kind of like garbage time points, though, but, it doesn't fucking matter. But we got to look into this wide receiver group with the Packers. That's a huge reason why I'm bringing these two teams up. You got Wicks, who had 13 targets this week out of nowhere. You got Jaden Reed with 8 targets. Romeo Dubes with 8. You got Christian Watson injured now, ankle injury. It looks like he's going to miss, a couple weeks with that. There's a lot going on. Yeah, exactly. He dealt with all the hamstring issues last year. Reed continues to be the only player that's in all the 3 receiver sets. But it's interesting to me, he's not really in 2 wide receiver sets, so he does come off the field at times. Wicks, he had a higher receiving grade than Dubes this past week. There's just it's a tricky wide receiver field to deal with in my eyes because there's so much rotation with them on the field, but there's just so much value with them. Against the Rams are allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers and the 3rd most receiving touchdowns. In my eyes, obviously, that's a no-brainer. Jaden Reed's an automatic start every week. He just has a nose for the fucking end zone. But when we're talking about Romeo Dubes and Jaden Reed with Christian Watson out, to me, I'm sorry, not Jaden, Romeo Dubes or Dontavian Wicks. To me, it's 100% Dontavian Wicks. Like the targets to me, Jordan Love looking his way like crazy, and the offseason hype is starting to look real with him. I think that Dontavian Wicks is a must start for me until Christian Watson comes back, and definitely if you have him on your team, you're putting him in your flex spot. How do you feel about that?
So my first takeaway is these names are fucking insane. Like Dubes, Wicks, Reed. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So you're right. The targets were crazy, but I do think we need to kind of take a breath and understand what that game was. The Packers got out of it. They were down like, what was it, 21, 28 before you could even blink. My boy Sam Darnold's fucking slinging it, touchdowns everywhere, doing his thing. Then they said to Jordan Love, "Let it fucking go, bro." He wore a Brett Favre jersey to the game. He was playing like Favre, dude, just fucking slinging it like crazy. And they really like took the leash off of him towards the end. He was going hard. That's why I don't think we're gonna see LaFleur let him go that crazy. I think it's gonna be a little bit more measured against the Rams, even though the Rams secondary. I mean, I love all these players involved. The 13 targets for Wicks really jumps out, but I think we see a much more even target share against Reed and Dubes. 8 targets each. Reed did way more with it. I have here that, the only guy I'm trusting is Jaden Reed, obviously. I am a little worried about consistency moving forward. But, I think if Wicks is out there, especially with all the injuries, and like Mike said before, all the bye weeks, like, dude, just start Wicks. It's fine. I think his floor is around 8 to 10 points, which isn't winning any awards or lighting the world on fire. But at the same time, it's like, I'll take that any day of the week, filling out my second flex during a bye week. But Mike, as far as LA players, like, dude, unless they're named Kyron Williams, like, I really have no interest at this point. I don't know how you feel about that before we go to the next game, but I really like who out there on LA is like I can't wait. Like, my big thing with LA is I just check in with what Puka Nakua is doing, make sure Kyron's healthy, and I just move on. I don't want any part of that dumpster fire right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, real quick, just on the Packers, I just want to throw out there because we didn't touch on Josh Jacobs. I don't really have much to say, just that I have him as a top 12 running back this week. He has a good matchup. But as
Yeah.
far as the Rams, it's pretty much a boring team without Cooper Kupp and Nakua. Cooper Kupp looks like he's going to miss a couple weeks. Nakua is going to miss at least the next month of the season. So, in my eyes, the only thing I wanted to slightly dive into is there a wide receiver that's going to step up in this offense? I thought it was going to be Demarcus Robinson, but he kind of shit the bed. And the guy who stepped up this past week, and it wasn't anything crazy, but still 80 plus yards, 4 catches for Tutu Atwell. I don't feel confident in any of these wide receivers, but I want everyone to just, in deeper leagues, if you need to put someone on your bench, you're hurt in the wide receiver department, just keep an eye on Jordan Whittington, keep an eye on Tutu Atwell, because Cooper Kupp and Nakua are going to miss a lot of time, I think, still. So, yeah, the Rams are a boring team in fantasy right now, which is crazy to say. Stafford obviously is a sit. The only thing going on for them really is Kyron Williams. So,
Whittington 8 targets last week, Mike.
yeah.
Atwell 6. Robinson, who everybody was going crazy about, only 3.
Yep. So, all right. Enough with the Rams, and let's talk about your Chiefs, bro. The Chiefs versus the Saints, and we got to talk about without Rice. First of all, this is a big thing. Who's going to benefit the most? If anyone's going to benefit. Obviously we saw Travis Kelsey saw an uptick.
God.
Xavier Worthy has that deep threat. But still to me seems risky each week. Who is any of these wide receivers on the Chiefs you think are going to step up and be fantasy relevant, or is it going to be a lot of what we saw with the Chiefs in prior years after Tyreek Hill left, where we saw Mahomes just distributing the ball all over the field? No one was having outlandish amount of targets. No one was really lighting it up. Do you think anyone's going to rise from the ashes?
So the only guy I like in this mess is Worthy, right? I think eventually Kelsey will come around. If you can get Travis Kelsey for cheap, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you can get Travis Kelsey for cheap, I think I really think he's playing himself into shape. And he's getting double teamed. We saw him have a better game last week. His teammates were around him, wearing his shirts and shit, like having a Mike White moment. But Kelsey and Xavier Worthy are the only ones where I'm like, all right, I could see them doing something. But Worthy only had 4 targets, right? He caught 3 of them. He had the touchdown. It is what it is. Watson had 3 targets, only caught 2. And my son, Sky Moore, had 2 targets but didn't catch any of them. I don't even know why he's on this. Now, we also know that it's the Chiefs and they'll probably pick up a guy that hasn't played in, 7 years and he'll end up like scoring the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl for them. But I don't know how you feel about it, Mike. And they're going up against the Saints who have their own issues. Like that first 2 weeks, it looked great. Now it's like, who can we trust in this offense? Derek Carr's come back to life. I'm starting Shaheed as my second flex in a lot of spots. I never thought I'd say that back in August. So for this game in particular, I mean, if you have Worthy, you got to start him. And I don't. He wasn't really startable the first 4 weeks of the season. Now I do think he slides into that Rice role, and I think he produces. Everybody else, like Juju, all these guys, I'm good on them. I don't know if anybody's really sticking out to you, Mike, but
So the Chiefs have been running the ball at a higher clip this season. 47% of the time it looks like, compared to last season, I think was at 40%. Um, I think that they're going to try to really rely on their running game a lot too, and that's a big thing we should touch on. Remember, we were talking about this when you were on the show last week, 2 weeks ago. Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, who's going to be the guy? Oh, Kareem Hunt, they signed the practice squad, but let's not talk about him. He's not going to be anything.
yeah, we
Dude, Kareem
buried him.
Hunt went fucking off, bro. He went off. He was a fucking huge. I mean, not went off, but he was a huge factor in the game, and he was like the lead back in the game. Carson Steele was a fucking afterthought. I think he had 2 carries. It's crazy. So, against the Saints have been one of the best all-around defenses. Against the Saints this week, obviously Kelsey's a must start. Kareem Hunt to me is a must start after the workload. He's a flex play to me at the least. But after that, no one else is really safe to me. I think we're just going to see a high Russian attack and a lot of Mahomes the last few years. Like I said, the ball's been distributed evenly to wide receivers without Rice. Justin Watson will have a couple targets. Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky. I think it's going to be a lot of just dinking the ball off here and there, and where to the point that no one's going to be fantasy relevant. Speaking on Mahomes, Sean, to me this week, Mahomes is not even a top 10 quarterback. Saints have
Oh
allowed
no.
one. They've allowed one passing touchdown. I think this is really important to touchdown. Touchdown. This is really important to touch on. Patrick Mahomes is the number 16 quarterback in fantasy, like I said earlier. He's playing one of the best defenses in the NFL. I said one passing touchdown the Saints have allowed. Mahomes has not thrown many touchdowns. Quite frankly, he's looked like shit. Outside of my top 10, he might be outside of my top 12 this week. You'll see on my free rankings that come out every week, probably tomorrow on our Patreon. So I want to touch on the Saints as well, real quick.
Hell yeah.
A huge part to me of Carr's success has been due to the offensive line. He's been sacked the fewest amount of times, leading to more patience for him in the pocket, which I think helped with his first couple of games with those huge fucking starts. This Chiefs secondary is, they're not the same as last year with L'Jarius Sneed, but led by McDuffie, they still have been hard to throw on. I have Olave as a wide receiver 2 this week, and Shaheed, who I thought is just a boom or a bust guy, like what he was last year. He just had 11 fucking targets last week, so I gotta respect him a little bit. I'm gonna make him a flex play. I don't love these 2 guys this week too much, but with the buys out and a lot of tough matchups, I'm I'm still obviously starting them. What's your trust factor in Olave? I got shitted on this past week, Sean, because I was telling people don't start him.
You
I
did,
don't
yeah.
trust him with the hamstring injury. Find alternative options. The alternative options that I mentioned, most of them actually ended up doing better than Olave, which thank God, because Olave got targeted a lot. But what's
Yeah.
your trust in Olave this week moving forward? Because I know you're not the biggest Olave guy. And
No,
is there any Saints that you would be starting this week against the Chiefs?
When you go out on a limb like that, they want it to be like he has 0 points because he put up 12.7 in full PPR, which again isn't anything great. See, this is what people got to understand. Like, you drafted these guys in the second, third round, and they're putting up flex numbers. Like, that's not good, right? Who am I trusting, Mike? Probably nobody. The only one that I'm really trusting is Alvin Kamara, which, that being said, he had another great game. I mean, Kamara, just, he needs respect on his name permanently forever. Shaheed, I like for the deep play. I'm getting on these guys this year, like Shaheed, Jamison Williams, that, it's the Tyreek Hill model, but all I need is one, dude. I just need one big play like we saw from Jamison Williams, and that's instant flex numbers. I think if you have Olave, you're starting him. I'm starting Olave, I'm starting Shaheed, I'm starting Kamara. If I'm desperate, I'm starting Carr, but I'm going to really try to explore other options. And anybody else, Mike, I mean, on the Chiefs, I'm terrified to start anybody, even Kareem Hunt, man. I mean, I get it. We aided on Steele so far. That's what it looks like. I mean, if the guy's going to fumble, especially as a rookie, he's not going to keep getting carries. So, I mean, we even saw that with great guys like James Cook in his rookie year. He was fumble like crazy. They'd bench his ass. They don't care. So it is what it is. But I'm really trying to stay away from this game over at all costs unless I have Kamara for sure.
All right. Next, let's go. We got the Commanders versus the Browns, and
Can
before
I,
the year,
Mike? Can I cut you off for a second because I got to tell you this because this has been a long time coming. I've been meaning to tell you. Credit to you. I was wrong. You were right. We went at it during the quarterback preview pod, which you can go back and listen to all those. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you got to go or you don't want to listen on Twitter, you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube the next day. You were right about Jaden Daniels. You had him over Caleb. Maybe it was the nail polish fumes getting in my brain, but Jaden Daniels is the fucking man, bro. He hasn't had 3 out of his first 4 games. He's had at least 30 points. This guy is next level, and Caleb's coming along. It is what it is. He's passing a lot, but you hit the nail on the head in the podcast. You said his running ability is going to be the difference, and it's probably the best take you had so far this year. I got to give you credit.
Sean, you can interrupt me any day of the week if you're gonna pump me up like that.
Jerk you off like that? Yeah.
Yes, that's it. So, yeah, thanks for that. Commanders versus Browns, 82% completion rate is most in NFL history for any player through the first 4 games of the season. And Jaden Daniels isn't just throwing little dinky passes, dump off passes. He's finding targets down the field. Sean, you'll like this. You'll appreciate this. Jaden Daniels, 5th in air yards per attempt. I was very stunned when I read that.
Yeah.
He throws the ball down the field. He's looking great at it. Credit to the offensive line; they look the most improved. They didn't give up a single sack this past week. Ton of credit to them. Ton of credit to Lamar Jackson Jr., bro. I think I'm going to start calling him that because he looks like it, and I think he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. But
He
that
is
might offend
kind
some
of, dude.
people.
He's more
That
accurate. I mean, he's seeing the game better. I mean, dude, I have here, and this makes me proud a little bit, but I'm disappointed because this is the first year in like 5 years I don't have him. He's making Scary Terry McLaurin one of the Mount
yes.
Rushmores of GCF fantasy relevant again. I mean, seriously, dude, what else do you need than that? That's just a feel good story for any fantasy football fan.
That's literally going to be the next words in my mouth. Terry is back to fantasy relevance. He's playing the Browns secondary. They haven't been what they were last year, but they're still a solid unit. Scary Terry, I have as a top. I think I have him on my top 15 possibly this week. Definitely not outside my top 20. Even against a solid unit, I think that's pretty good for him. To me, I want to try to figure out, Jaden Daniels completing the ball, getting a lot of targets. I want a wide receiver too to step up and be that guy in fantasy for us on this team, just like we see on plenty of other teams. 2 wide receivers, sometimes 3 wide receivers are fantasy relevant. And no one's really stuck out yet. McCaffrey's looked all right at times. I thought this was really interesting to me. Noah Brown, he played 2 less snaps than Terry, and he ran just 3 less routes than Terry. So I'm keeping an eye on him moving forward. I know he's no one to write home about, but he had some fucking huge blow up games last year for the Texans. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Your boy Brian Robinson has been a fucking stud too, by the way. He's a start for me as well this week. On the Brown side, Jerome Ford, he's dominated the backfield lately. Ford now has played a hair under 80% of snaps in each of the past 2 games. I have him as a top 15 running back against the Commanders, and that's a team that you can definitely run on. Another guy I'm keeping an eye on the Browns too, Jerry Jeudy. He's been playing his playing time and has been pretty high. He's got more targets, I believe, than Cooper. As hot as the Commanders' offense has been, their defense has not. They played well against the Cardinals, but they've allowed the 4th most rushing yards in the year and the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So obviously you're starting Amari Cooper, but I think Jerry Jeudy this week also has flex appeal to me. So talk to the people about the Commanders and Browns in Fantasyland.
And speaking of flex appeal, uh, what's his name? Olamide Zacchaeus, the kid that used to be on
The
the
Eagles.
Falcons. Remember,
Oh, the
every once in a
Falcons.
while,
Yes.
he would like pull shit out of his ass and have a bomb touchdown. Mike, he had 6 targets last week. He caught all of them for 85 yards. Now, I chalk all this up kind of to just Jaden Daniels finding a way. I mean, week 3, they spread the ball around like crazy. And I mean, they're a run first team, whether you like it or not. I would maybe even give Zacchaeus a look if you're very desperate. But yeah, I'm only really starting Terry McLaurin. McCaffrey, I think's a little bit away from there. The Browns, I just have here, Mike. I'm sure you agree. It's a mess. Like, we could do a whole podcast on the downfall of Deshaun Watson, that's for sure. But everybody's really mid. Yeah, you're starting Amari Cooper. I mean, he didn't do shit until last week. Let's be honest. Right
He
when
should have
everybody
had that fucking 80-yard touchdown. He got fucked on that
yeah,
play, Deshaun Watson. That was bullshit, dude.
that's how it goes, though. I mean, welcome to fucking being a George Pickens owner. You know what I mean? This is how it goes. But at the same time, I did want to let the people know, Mike, and I'm sure you saw this. Nick Chubb's practice window is opening tomorrow. It's a
Yes.
21-day practice window. I was looking all over the place kind of to see what a projected time frame for him was or how this practice window really works. And I think basically he at a minimum could come back week 8 at the earliest. I don't know how you feel about it, Mike. I think they might be a little more cautionary with him, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Chubb after the bye, and that would be week 11. If you can get your hands on Nick Chubb, I would do it. At the same time, it's probably in the same vein as Jonathan Brooks. People drafted him and are waiting for him to come back. So it is what it is. But let's keep an eye on that because the Cleveland running game, I mean, it's as much as I love what's his name? Who's the running back right now? Jerome Ford. As much as I love Jerome Ford going into the season, he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good either. Just, average flex play. Turned out his ADP was right. And I mean, he's doing okay for me in one league where he's just chilling in the flex. But overall, I mean, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, so Jerome Ford this week, we like him, but I I guess it's safe to say he's kind of a sell high candidate because the practice window is opened. You have 21 days to come back to active, I believe. And if you're not active at that point, I believe you're out for the year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think once Nick Chubb comes back, it's going to be a slow build up. But
Yep.
I feel like by his 3rd, 4th game, he'll be close to a full workload for him, and that's right before the fantasy playoffs. So I love that. If you don't have anything else to touch on that, then we can go to the next team, and that's the Bills versus the Texans. And we talked about Nico Collins earlier in the respect column, and we talked about a lot of these teams with 3 wide receivers and how it would end up. And it's starting to look like a lot of our offseason questions are being answered. Some of them, for instance, with the Texans, we see that Nico Collins is clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. After that, There's a lot of surprise with me there, dude. Stephon Diggs has been a fucking stud. I mean, he honestly has been great in Houston. And he's really getting just as much playing time and just as high of a snap count as Nico Collins. He has three less snaps than Nico on the year. With Tank Dell on the field for the first 3 weeks because he was injured this past week, Tank Dell's clearly been the wide receiver 3, and he's struggling. He's averaging 5 targets a game. Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs is averaging 8. Nico Collins is averaging 11. We talked about Nico, but Diggs outperforming my expectations, while Dell has been a major disappointment. When it comes to stopping the pass, Buffalo's defense has been clicking this season. It ranks 8th in the league with 165 yards per game. Um, I I mean, Stephon Diggs is if Nico Collins got hurt, Stephon Diggs instantly is a top 12 wide receiver for me in
Oh
Houston.
yeah.
I just can't believe it. And how do you feel about well, number one, if Tank Dell plays this week, which I think he's gonna, are you starting him? And number two, how do you feel about this Texans wide receiver room right now, fantasy?
So Tank's expected to come back. I'm over it, dude. Like I'm fucking over it. Show me something. He's fat. He's my new fucking fat Mike. Tank Dell's fat. He's skinnier than I'll ever be, but with a name like Tank, you're fat in my mind forever. And like, dude, it's not like I had a moment before I was like, yo, has Tank even played this year? Like I haven't even because I don't
How
have him
quiet he's
anywhere.
been, man.
Yeah, I don't have him anywhere, and we never really talk about him. I don't see him when I'm watching the game. So I'm like, let me go back and look. And he had this is full PPR 7.4, 1.8, 8.7, and he missed the game. I'm not starting Tank Dell until he actually shows me something. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's going to get 40 on your bench. You're going to be pissed. Bro, get 40 on my bench. I'll be fucking
Yeah.
pumped because
Yep.
I'll know that, okay, he still has some left in the tank, no pun intended. I mean, I think you're only starting Diggs and Collins with full confidence here, and I think it's fine. I mean, we can speculate on if injuries and shit happens, especially with Nico and obviously Tank. Like we see the injuries happen, but for me, bro, I think a big takeaway with this game in general is we need to see a bounce back performance from Josh Allen. But here's my thing: who do you even trust? Like, talk about losing faith in guys. Cam Akers, he finally got his shot and didn't do anything with it, bro.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I don't want to hear anybody tell me about Cam Akers anymore. Cook, after that monster game in week 2, followed up with a pretty decent performance against the Jags, but at the same time, Jags defense is so bad. We were really expecting more from him. And then he didn't do shit against Baltimore. So I'm kind of in this game, I'm really not expecting much. I would love to know what the under is because I wouldn't be surprised these guys are just fucking slapping it around and fucking up. The Texans, the scary thing is, Mike, I don't think they're even close to what they can be. And I think we're going to see CJ Stroud really turn it up and show us what he's got. I mean, this is the first week, last week, that he actually scored in the 20s. He had 23 and a half and 6-point PPR. 6-point passing touchdowns, and the schedule just really opens up for him down the stretch. So I'm curious to see what they have. I also am very disappointed in the Bills wide receivers. I mean, we thought Kincaid was going to be that guy. He had a little bit of a better game 2 weeks ago, but then it was back to reality last week against Baltimore. Definitely regret spending a 5th-round pick on that guy, a guy that you had as your number 1 tight end. But honestly, you might be right by the end of the year because tight end's been fucking horrible. And then everybody wanted to throw, Keon Coleman a parade because he had a funny press conference. And that guy's been fucking nothing special. So it's really a whole lot of nothing over there in Buffalo. I'm not excited about it at all. I don't know how you're feeling about it.
No, I'm not either, man. That was the big reason why I brought this up, though, too. This game was because the Texans had the 3 wide receivers. We wanted to see how that would play out, and we're getting, those questions answered. But we're not really getting much answers from the Bills. Maybe the answer is that no one's going to step and be the wide receiver 1. I think the Bills went into this season thinking, like, Josh Allen is a god. He could get it fucking done. He doesn't need Stephon Diggs. He doesn't need a top tier wide receiver. He doesn't need a deep threat, maybe like how Gabe Davis was providing for them. We'll get him a couple like slot wide receivers. I don't know what that is. we'll get him a couple slot wide receivers, quick wide receivers. He could dump off to them. Somebody will pick it up. No one's really picked it up. I mean, Kincaid started to get more involved in the offense, but nothing special. I still have my hopes on Khalil Shakir moving forward, but I don't know. I'm this game I want to be more excited for. I hope I'm very excited for it because it does have potential to me to be a high scoring game, but I guess that remains to be seen. Real quick, the Bills' rushing defense numbers look inflated because of the ass kicking from the Ravens, but before that, they were pretty solid. So Joe Mixon, I've been all over him lately. I've loved him early on. I've had him as like a low end running back one. I don't have him quite as high this week against the Bills. I'm a little lower than that, but obviously you're still starting him. But if Mixon's out and Akers plays, I don't even know if I have Cam Akers as a running back too. He really pissed me off. So, real quick, we have one more game. I just want to touch on it real quick. It's the Colts versus Jaguars.
Dude, please. I wanted to lead with this. This is a big game.
Well, I'll let you take the floor. I just wanted to bring up, I was kind of Anthony Richardson's supposed to be our boy. I was kind of hoping that we could have, pay somebody to take his face off of our Mount Rushmore and maybe put Flacco back in there because fucking Flacco just makes, with the fucking Browns last year and now the Colts, he was making these players fantasy relevant. It looks like Richardson's going to play, so that sucks if you're a Pittman owner, if you're a Josh Downs owner, who I'm very high on. I think you still want to put him on your team. And then the other thing I want to touch on, Jonathan Taylor, the ankle injury, this guy's going to miss a couple of weeks. If you're in need of a running back for the short term, Trey Sermon's a pickup. I'll let you lead, man. It sounds like you really got a lot to say about this game.
Dude, I mean, for me, like, and by the way, the Taylor isn't going on the injury reserve. I know that was like a question, but I think they said today he's not going.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Richardson, week one, that is what I'm fucking talking about, bro. This guy was next level. It's exactly what I was fucking hoping for. 27 points. Like, this is it, right? Like, Jaden Daniels type shit. Ever since then, fucking fell off a cliff. I am heavily invested in Anthony Richardson across the board, but I'm torn because I'm also heavily invested in Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, dude. He scored 17.3 full PPR fantasy points last week with Flacco. That's only 2.5 less than he scored weeks 1 through 3. Okay. He's having a fucking, our boy KP, Patreon member, who's been with us for a while. He messaged me during the game. He's like, Pittman's about to have his career year with fucking Joe Flacco, a guy that always, this is his second year now coming in and fucking saving the day. Mike likes Downs a lot. I still like Alec Pierce. I mean, there's guys on this fucking team, but the problem is Anthony Richardson is a mess right now. I don't know what it is. It's crazy. I know in week one he kind of had that huge play to Pierce that maybe faded the numbers a little bit, but he had 56 rushing yards and a touchdown, which that's what you want with Anthony Richardson. We're not talking about the future of the Colts franchise. We're talking about this year in fantasy. So Richardson's still super young. I don't think people understand. He's only 22 years old. There's fucking starters in college that'll play another 2 years and then get drafted. And this is his second year in the league. So I think people need to understand that. For Dynasty, this guy is the guy that I'm trying to trade for and grab right now. For this week, though, Mike, it's a dream matchup for the wide receivers. And I just don't know how at this point you can start any of these wide receivers with Anthony Richardson as their quarterback. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The Jags defense ranks in the bottom 5 of fantasy points per game allowed to wide receivers. And I still don't feel too comfortable if Anthony Richardson's the quarterback. I need Joe Flacco in there, it looks like. If Flacco plays, Josh Downs and Pittman are must starts to me. And I like Alec Pierce. He's had a couple I think he's got like 3 40-yard catches on the season. He's already been on my waiver wire targets once. Josh Downs was out at the time. He's back. He's getting more of a workload, higher snap count, more targets. So Joe Flacco, if he plays, you're starting Colt wide receivers. Trey Sermon's the backup. But the Jaguars, they've kept starting running backs in check. Cam Akers, when they faced him, running back 43. Jerome Ford, when they faced him, running back 37. Um, they've done a pretty good job against them. On the Jaguars' offensive side, real quick, I think it's pretty interesting. Like you and me haven't really talked about it. Um, Travis Etienne and Bigsby. Bigsby's he's outproducing Etienne on the ground. He's done it for a second week now. We saw it in week 1. We just saw it this week. He's seeing more snaps inside the 5-yard line. Bigsby's more efficient right now, and this is very scary news for ETN owners. The ETN's your fucking boy, Sean. I don't know if I hear you shaking over there, like it's your nerves maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know if that's going to be an issue moving forward because, Tank, he's looking great, dude.
I kind of feel, and that Tank Bigsby actually is fat, I think. So that's why I like him more.
That's cool.
So here's my thing, like ETN, I kind of became disillusioned with him last year. I was all in. I was all about it, and then it turned into like, oh, we went over that in the running back preview. I still like ETN a lot. I don't know what to make of this offense with Jacksonville. I really don't. I mean, Lawrence looked better. I Brian Thomas Jr. had a breakout game that nobody's
Dude,
really
he looks
talking about.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So I don't know. For me personally, I'm probably going to kind of stay away from all these guys except Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously you're starting ETN, but in terms of starting Lawrence, I think I'm going to skip that. At the end of the day, Mike, with the Colts, I think we have to start Anthony Richardson as long as he plays until it gets to a point where it's just out of control. It's not going to be good. And I think I'm going to set that point at week 6. If he comes back and he either gets hurt or has a bad game, it's just better off to fucking find somebody else. Mike, before I had one more quick thing about something else not related to this game. But would you start? This is separate of that. Just real quick. Would you start Joe Flacco if you were really, really hurting for a quarterback?
Oh yeah, I definitely would. I mean, he's not like a top 5 quarterback to me, but I definitely would. The yardage is going to be there. They're going to let him throw the ball. There's no Jonathan Taylor. I think there are definitely worse starts than him. So yeah, I would start him.
And real quick, I'm trying to find it. I just had it before. Okay, here we go. Real quick, the Jets and the fucking Vikings. It's a home game for the Vikings, but they're in London. Again, 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. If you don't go out and put your fucking mortgage payment on the New York Jets, I don't think I'll give you a better bet than this. I don't know how the Jets are, or excuse me, I do know how. I'm just shocked that the Jets are getting points. They're getting, let me see, they're plus 102 right now on DraftKings. Go, whatever you can afford to bet, go put your money on Jets money line, dude. They're going to win that motherfucking game. It's so clear as day to me. Bad fucking game in the rain, shitty turf. Oh my God, Rodgers is old. Blah blah blah. Robert Saleh is a joke. Fire him now. All know it. The Vikings were begging the Packers to take that game, and the Packers honestly just ran out of time. Rodgers is gonna fucking tear that defense up, and the Jets defense is gonna remind Sam Darnold why he failed in New York. Jets by a fucking touchdown and a half.
I don't know where this boost of confidence is coming from in the Jets. I'm not on like fuck the Jets bandwagon after this past week because the weather was terrible. Broncos just outplayed them. Our offensive line looked like shit. But I don't know where that boost of confidence is coming from.
I don't think
I like it.
I don't think we're good by any means. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about this week. It's way too much. I think people that are so against the Jets this week just didn't watch the game last week. It was clear. It was just a shitty game. They were off. Rodgers is operating on a level that these guys haven't even seen. I mean, this is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Okay. They got to catch up to him. I just don't believe in the Vikings like this. I hope Darnold keeps going just for his sake. I don't think the Jets are, if the Jets make the playoffs, I'll be happy and kind of surprised. But for this week, I think I just don't know. It feels like free money to me. Maybe I'm wrong and we meet next week and I owe you guys all mortgage payments, but I really don't think that's happening.
Can I end on one note? Do you have
Please.
anything else to say by the way?
No, I'm good to go, bro.
I just want to end on one thing. And it's shitting on the Dolphins, one of my favorite pastimes.
Of course. Please.
Kevin O'Connell lost J.J. McCarthy, his starting quarterback, earlier on, and the Vikings are 4-0 with Sam Darnold. I saw this on Twitter. I'm stealing this from someone, by the way. Matt LaFleur lost Jordan Love, and the Packers went 2-0 with Malik Willis. Shane Steichen, I believe that's how you say his last name, the Colts head coach, lost Anthony Richardson on Sunday, their starting quarterback, and won the game with Joe Flacco. Mike McDaniels is 1-6 without Tua Tagovailoa. Dolphins suck. Mike McDaniels severely overrated. He's a child. He needs to get drop kicked in the face.
Mike McDaniels, but he wore cool shoes.
And he sprints off the field at halftime to the locker.
That's just like Robert Saleh, bro, where it's like, oh, but he did a really good workout before the game, so he's
he ran the stairs. Yeah, he's a piece of shit too. But that's for the Jets pod.
Anytime a coach shows personality, these fucking losers in the media, like these guys that haven't been home in 30 years and their wives hate them, like anytime a guy gives them a joke, they prop him up to be great. He's just like fucking Robert Saleh, bro. That's why they were parking cars for Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. They just need to go back and be fucking coordinators because they're not head coaches.
They got to go back to Park and Ballet.
They did for your boy Brian Kelly.
They should go back.
Shout out our boy Erom, big Georgia fan. Did you talk shit to him because you're the biggest Bama fan I know?
As soon as I saw it, because I didn't even know they were playing until the next morning. I saw it underneath, and I texted him Roll Tide right away.
Oh, he probably got so mad. GCF contributor, Erom. He'll be back.
I'm buying a Roll Tide shirt. They're fucking they're winning the national championship.
Oh, dude, I like them more Georgia again. But we'll see. All right. Subscribe to Patreon. We'll be back next week. I'm going to be locked the fuck in the Jets game now. Let's go.
All right. Peace.